All right. Hey guys, just getting the stream started a few minutes early. I see some of you starting to hit the page, so I wanted to pop on and say, hey, we will get started at 11 a.m. Pacific time. That's 2 p.m. Eastern time, and you are in the right place. I'm going to go ahead and turn on my slides, make sure everything's working, and I'll be right back. We will get started. You are in the right place for the free training. We're getting started in about 7 minutes here if my clock is right. We'll get started right at 11 a.m. Pacific time, and I'll be sharing 5 non-negotiable pieces that you've got to have in place to create a life-changing, money-making online business that you love. I'll also be sharing with you something called the 3 E's and a story about a guitar and scotch tape. So stay tuned. Now's a great time to grab a pen and paper, grab a cup of coffee, and settle in. I appreciate you spending part of your Saturday here with me, and I look forward to sharing this today. Getting started here in about 4 minutes or so. Thanks for popping in a couple minutes early. And I got about 4 minutes now to grab a pen and paper, a snack if you'd like, something to drink, and we're getting started right at 11 a.m. Pacific time. If you'd like to share this free training with your friends, you're welcome to do that. You can click the buttons over on the left side of your screen to share on Facebook, Twitter. You got a bunch of buttons to pick from there, and I would love if you take a second and do that. What I'm going to share with you today will be worth your time. We'll help you look at a few things a little bit differently. So, again, we'll be getting started right at 11 a.m. Pacific time, 2 p.m. Eastern time in about 3 minutes. All right, it is 11 a.m. Pacific time, 2 p.m. Eastern time. We're about ready to rock. I thought I'd pop on the screen just for a second. It's interesting, the emails you get, right, when you send out newsletters. I've gotten two in the last week of people asking me if the picture in my email was really me. I've also recently had one asking if I was a real person. So I thought I'd hop on camera, and this is me. And yes, I'm a real person. So there you go. We're going to jump in just a second here and give everybody a minute to get settled in. And I'm going to turn my slides back on. Thanks again for joining me on this beautiful Saturday. All right. And here we we go. We've got slides back. So I just want to welcome you again to the training today. It's my goal to make sure that the next hour or so that you spend here is a good use of your time and mine, that you walk away with some actionable things that will help you to really create the business that you want. You are in the right place, on the right page. You found the right link to join the webcast today. Real quick, if you can hear me, if you can see me, let me know in chat. And I know we've got chat going on in 2 different places right now. You may be watching this at michelleschaefer.com/live, which is the link from the email, or you may be sneakily watching it on my YouTube channel, which has a chat on the side of the page as well. Either place, I'm watching both. So let me know if you can see me, hear me okay, if you can see the slides. I want to make sure that all that's running smoothly as we jump in. And I know I'm a minute ahead of you guys, bit of delay in the video, so I'll give you a minute to respond in chat. Again, you're welcome to share this training with your friends and invite them along. You can click the buttons on the left side of the page to do that. It will not take you away from the page with the video and the chat. It'll just open up a little window so you can share. And with that, thanks for letting me know it's working. I see Regina, hey, and Joe, hi, you're over on the YouTube channel. Okay, awesome. I'm going to jump in and get started. First of all, hi. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Michelle Schaefer. And here's what you're going to discover in this presentation and this training today. One really big thing that can shift your results in your business. The 5 non-negotiable requirements to create a life-changing, money-making online business that you love. I'm also going to share with you the 3 E's and how you can use them to change the way that you communicate, to change the way that the words you speak make people feel, that will completely change the way they respond to you, the reaction you get, the results you get in your business. If this sounds good to you, let me know. Say yes in the comments and chat, and we will jump right in here. So to start with, we look at successful people sometimes and we think they have to be a certain way, that it takes certain things to be a success. And I'm not anyone special. I'm not super brilliant. I wasn't born rich. I don't look like a model. You guys saw me on camera a minute ago. I'm pretty much just your normal American mom. Okay, maybe not completely normal. There's a few things about me, that might be a little off, but overall, I'm just a normal person. I'm from a tiny snowy town in Alaska. This is a picture of Main Street in the winter, and that is, you're seeing the entire Main Street. That's it. That's downtown. And that's a pretty typical day in the town that I grew up in. And one of the things that you figure out when you live somewhere very rural, very disconnected from the rest of the world, is that the internet is awesome. And so from the time I was a kid, I was online, I was figuring out all those pieces, and I eventually started a business online. It was a natural thing for me because I was very reliant on the internet to communicate with people, to realize there was an outside world beyond the tiny town I was in. And, first few years, I provided services in exchange for dollars, like a lot of people getting started with a business online, and I was working like crazy. I was working so many hours, and I was kind of at my max for how many hours I could work based on how much time I had available, because, I had kids, I had a family, and there was a lot that I was trying to figure out, right? When you first get started in your business, there's just so many different pieces that you're trying to put together, that you're trying to figure out how to scale it, how to grow into what you want. And my business was doing okay, but it wasn't making enough to support me or my family by any means, really. I was making a few $100s a month at that point. And it was something that I knew there had to be a way to get it to where it could support my family, and I hadn't figured it out yet. So I was working like crazy. I was doing the typical thing of, handle family stuff, kid stuff all day, at night, put my kid to bed, and get on my computer and get done any projects that I had, and then try to figure out this marketing thing, try to figure out how do I grow my business, how do the pieces work. And I remember one night I was living at this point in Tennessee with my ex-husband and my son, who was a toddler at the time, and I was up late trying to figure out how to grow my business beyond that couple $100 a month. How do I turn it into something that I'm not constantly worried? I don't always have that feeling in the pit of my stomach that I don't know how I'm going to pay the next bill that comes in, or how I'm going to afford um, to cover rent that month. We were really paycheck to paycheck, and I fell asleep. I was sitting on the couch with my laptop on my lap, and fell asleep there. And I remember the next morning, my son kind of toddled into the living room where I'd fallen asleep, and he looks up at me, and you know how it is when your kids wake you up when you've been up late working, you're really dazed and out of it, half asleep, and so I'm trying to rub my eyes, wake up, and he says, "Mama, I'm hungry." And I remember just the feeling that I got. I walked into the kitchen with him, and I opened the cabinets, and that's basically what they looked like. I had one package of ramen noodles, and I had a box of store brand macaroni and cheese because I couldn't afford Kraft. And I remember the look on his face, because that's what we had been eating at that point for a couple of weeks. He didn't want to eat the same thing again, and that was all I had. And I remember just wrapping my arms around him and collapsing on the floor in just a pile of tears. Because how do you explain to your child that's all you've got? That you can't afford to go to the grocery store, that you don't even know what you're going to eat after you eat those last two things in your cabinet because you are that broke. And I remember sitting there holding him. He's crying, I'm crying, and I'm collapsed on the floor. And I thought to myself, I made a promise to myself, I will figure it out. I barely held it together, and I remember later that day, actually, I I gave in, and I thought, this has to change, but I don't know what to do for right now, and I have to feed my child. And I went down to social services and I applied for welfare. I was barely holding it together while I was standing in that line, because all I could think was, I'm about to sign my name to saying that, I can't afford to provide for my child. I can't, it's one thing when you can't, get it together for yourself, but when you've got a family, or, people around you that you love, that you want to help, your parents, whoever it is for you, when you can't do what you want for them, that's just a crushing reality, isn't it? And I think we've all been there, those moments where we feel like we don't have any control, we're powerless. That's how I felt. I felt completely powerless. That's where I was at. And I was determined to change our lives, to figure it out so that I would never, ever be in that situation or feel that way again. And I'm happy to say now my life's not like that anymore. I'm not wondering where the next package of ramen noodles is going to come from. Now I enjoy things like adventures with my three kids. You can see on the slide there a picture of us with this very crazily dressed up person. We were driving across the US and stopped in some little Western towns. So the reason I share that is because I think most of us can relate to that feeling of not being in control, of feeling like we're powerless. And I told you earlier that I'm pretty much a typical American mom. Here's what's not typical about me, though, and probably why you're watching. I've created my own successful blog and business. And that allows me to support my family while I'm doing something that I love every day. And that's a really, really great feeling, especially when I look back at where I came from. Sometimes people tell me, well, yeah, you're successful now, and they don't realize everybody comes from somewhere, everybody goes through things like that. But when I share with them where I was at, I literally was in a place where I couldn't even afford to pay for an internet bill. I used net zero. You guys, some of you, if you're old enough, I know I'm dating myself, you might remember those free CDs they used to give away at Walmart and all the different grocery stores, that you could get online with net zero free for 30 days. And then you could go get online free with AOL for 30 days. And then you could go get online free with Juno for 30 days. That's how I stayed online. during this particular period of time. Now, thankfully, I no longer worry about how I'm going to afford to connect to the internet. But I've talked to people before, and one of the ladies that I used to work with as a coach, she told me, "You didn't even start at the starting line, sweetie," because where I was at was, you know, like all of us, I had so many challenges that a lot of people look at it and go, "Okay, you should just give up." Um, but I wasn't willing to do that. I knew there was something I was here to do, and I knew that I could figure it out. So here's a few little fun adventures I've had with my kids. You can see them there on the slide. Now, I know here's where I'm supposed to brag and show you proof of my success. And I'm not going to do that so much. I'm going to show you a couple things here so that you have something to model when you do your own webcast, because you do need to show people where you came from and where you're at so that they understand that you can help them, not just that you've succeeded, but that you actually understand where they came from, and that maybe you came from a place where they can look at you and go, okay, wow, if she could start with that and succeed, then I know I can succeed too. Because that's what's inspiring, right? When you see somebody else who's not just going through the same struggles you are, who understands where you've been, but who maybe started even further behind than you did, that's when you know, hey, if they can do it, I can do it. I remember some of the first people that I saw speaking on stage. And I remember thinking, there was a particular person that I saw speak on stage one time, and up until then I had thought, well, the only people who get on stage have, certain things in common. That's not me. I'm not a model. I'm not a super charismatic person. Nobody wants to listen to me. And I remember seeing this one woman speak on stage. She was absolutely captivating, but she also wasn't the typical speaker that you see. And I realized, hey, if she can do that, I can do that too. So one of the things that I always want to make sure I'm doing is helping you to see what's behind, what's the reason for why people do certain things on a webcast or in their blog post or whatever I'm teaching about. So here's an example of my traffic graph. And, best month's traffic I've had, 400,000 plus page views, 50,000 unique visitors. I think the last 30 days, I was at about 47,000 unique visitors. If you guys are bloggers and you're tracking your stats, that's not bad. All right. So here's the thing though. Good content and attracting traffic are not what you've been told they are. And I'm going to share with you more in a few minutes about what they really are and how you can attract traffic, how you can write the kind of content that will connect with people. I can show you other proof, hundreds of comments on some of my posts, hundreds of tweets, over 1,000 Facebook shares there on one I've got on the screen, and different awards that I've been given. But here's all that really matters. Because when you get down to it, all of that, it's great. It's awesome that I've got traffic, that, I've got people looking at my stuff. But what really matters is that I'm able to work for myself, and I'm blessed to have created a life-changing, money-making business doing what I love. And the main message that I want to share with you today is that you can create more than you may have ever dreamed was possible for you. I know that I did. I never, 15 years ago, if you had told me, or even 8 years ago, if you had told me that I would be where I'm at right now, I wouldn't have believed you. I would have thought, yeah, I don't think I can do that. But it is possible. And if it's possible for me, I know it's possible for you. I wake up at peace now. I don't wake up with my toddler asking me for food that I can't give him. I wake up knowing that my family is provided for. And that's an amazing feeling when you've been at the other extreme of that. And I have the comfort of knowing that even when I'm not working, my business is bringing in money and helping people. You hear people tell the stories, and you're not sure, at least I'm not sure sometimes, what to think. But I was joking with a friend about this the other day. We were in the hot tub, and I picked up my phone because, well, I always have my iPhone with me. And I got notices of sales that were coming in, and I remember we were joking about it because it's so funny to realize that actually is possible to create. That your business can keep making sales, keep working for you, regardless of where you're at and what you're doing. Here's what I discovered. There's 5 non-negotiable requirements to create a life-changing, money-making online business that you love. And that's what I'm going to share with you now, is what those 5 things are and how you can make sure that you've got them in place for your business. because without them, you end up frustrated because you're not sure what's not working. Something's not working. You're putting your time, your energy, your effort into it, and it's still not turning out the way you want. So I'm going to help you figure out which of these pieces may be the one that you need to look at. Are you ready to discover these two? Say yes in chat. Let me know. I see you guys on the page. I know you know I can see that. Jump into chat and say hello. All right. I'm going to assume you said yes, and I'm going to keep going here. Here's what I know. When you get these 5 non-negotiables in place, it becomes nearly impossible to fail. Now, I know that's a big promise to make, but here's the thing, is when you have these in place, really the only way to fail is to give up and quit. And I know that you wouldn't be here watching this training on a Saturday morning or afternoon if that was an option. That's not an option, right? So before we go into it, I want to just make sure that you're in the right place and that this is going to be valuable for you. So here's how to know if this is for you. It's for you if you've got a mission, a message, and a purpose, and you feel a burning desire to grow your business. You're excited to take action and make changes to reach your goals. If those things are true, then you are definitely in the right place. Now, this isn't for you if you're happy with where you're at in life and business. So if everything's going great, you're making the money you want to make, you're reaching all the people that you know you could reach who are waiting to hear from you, then that's awesome. This is not the webinar for you. If you're already reaching everyone that you want to reach, or if you're already making all the money that you want to make, also not the webinar for you. But there's one more thing that's not on the slide that really will tell you whether you're in the right place or not. If all you care about is how much money you bring in this month and not how you feel about it, how your clients feel about it after you get their money, and you're not interested in really making the world a better place with what you do, this isn't the right webinar for you, because what I'm going to share with you is bigger than just making sales and building your business. It's about doing what you're here to do in a way that supports you and that changes the lives around you and helps to change the world. So let's jump into exactly what these 5 things are. I encourage you to turn off distractions and let's just get real for the next 60 minutes or so. I'm going to share the exact 5 non-negotiables you desperately need and how to get them in place so you can finally succeed with joy in your business. Does that sound good? What I'm about to share with you is not unique only to me. In fact, as soon as I share these, you're going to immediately recognize these 5 pieces in place for the entrepreneurs you know who are succeeding. So I want you to think about that as I share them and think about where you've seen them and what pieces you do have in place, which pieces you might be missing. All right. But first, let me tell you a little story. And this story is about an odd guitar, Scotch tape, and a tone-deaf man. Those are 3 things that I'm betting you probably haven't heard combined in a story before. So, let's see. I see in the comments, Nancy, you're having trouble hearing me. You might check the sound settings. Just, well, if you can't hear me explaining, that's probably not going to do much good. But definitely check your sound, and let's see here. Let me just test my sound and make sure that we are all good. Yep, sound seems to be working, so I'm going to put a comment in chat here for you, Nancy. Let's see. All right, hopefully Nancy's able to get her volume working. So let me dive into this story, and you can let me know if this resonates with you. I think you're going to find it very, very interesting. So meet my dad. I love my dad, and he's tone deaf, and he loves music, which, as you can imagine, is a bit of a challenging combination. But he taught me a really important and very surprising lesson about what actually determines success. There's one thing that matters more then talent, then skill, then status, then money, then background, then education. All those things can help you succeed. But there's one thing that matters more than any of that. Does anybody know what it is? You want to put a guess in the chat? There's one piece that you've got to begin with if you want to succeed. There's one piece. My dad was determined to learn how to play the guitar. And I remember thinking, how is that going to work? Now, I was a young teenager at the time, and I'm looking at my dad thinking, you don't hear notes very well, Dad. You need to be able to hear them to tune your guitar, to play your guitar. I don't understand how this is going to work. And I watched as he brought home an Ovation guitar, and my mom looked more than a little skeptical. Now, my mom has a gift for music. She's a very talented singer, and she was wondering the same thing that I was. But just a few weeks later, I sat in church and I watched as my dad joyfully played guitar as everyone sang. No one laughed. No one cringed. There was no one running from the building screaming in severe ear pain, which, as a young teenager, I thought that was a distinct possibility. But that moment is when I realized something that's been the foundation for everything I've had success with since then. And that is that the first piece you have to have in place really is passion. We all know people who have succeeded at things that any person with common sense would have looked at and went, there's no way. You can't do that. You can't make that work. A lot of times we see them in movies because it's so inspiring to us that their story ends up in a book, on TV, in a movie, because anybody would have looked at them and said, it's okay if you give up. This is too hard. I don't think you can do this. I don't see how you can succeed. But if you've got a passion for something, you can succeed with it. So that's the first non-negotiable piece that you've really got to have in place. And, I've had people tell me, well, I don't know what I'm passionate about. You've just got to start with whatever you feel excited by, what you feel called to do. You'll find it. Find ways to be of service to people around you, and you'll figure out what you're passionate about. But you've got to have passion for what it is that you want to do. So that's the first piece to get in place, is to figure out what is it that you're passionate about and to build on that. We'll talk more about that in a minute. And watching his very unlikely and surprising success with learning to play the guitar to the point where he was playing in front of people. He didn't just learn it as a private hobby. He learned to play so that he could share that in church. And I saw 4 more things that were really key in the success. Anybody know what this is that I have on the screen right now? If you're into music, you might know what it is. One of the things that I wondered about was when you play the guitar, it's important to keep it in tune. If the guitar is out of tune, it does not sound good. It does not sound good by itself. It does not sound good with the rest of the instruments, and you can't sing along to it, right? Well, for someone who's tone deaf, tuning the guitar becomes a problem because you can't hear when the notes are in tune. Maybe you felt that way in your business. There's certain things that you need to do, but you don't have a natural sense of it. It's not a skill that you've acquired or a talent that you have. Well, guess what? Again, if you're passionate about something, you'll find a solution. For me, when I started my business, what I was passionate about was feeding my children. It's okay if your passion is that you want to take care of your family. You'll find the passions that motivate you in your business as you start with wherever you're at. But if you're determined to make something work, you're going to figure it out. My dad bought an electric guitar tuner. Now, he couldn't hear when his guitar was in tune, but he was able to watch it and see on the tuner when it was in tune so that he could play in harmony with the other instruments. So the second thing that you've got to have in place is the right tools to support you, to make up for anywhere that you're struggling with. The awesome thing about the time that we live in is that there are so many tools and things out there that can help us, templates and checklists and whatever it is that we need, we can find something to help us with that particular piece. So let's get to the Scotch tape part of this story. Another thing that's important when you are playing along with others is that you remember your chords for your guitar. that you remember the notes. Now, my dad didn't just want to play the guitar, he wanted to play it right now. He wanted to be able to play along with other people in church, and he didn't want to spend 6 months or a year trying to figure it out. Do you ever feel that way about your business? You want it to work right now, not 6 months from now, not 2 years from now, right now. Well, with the right strategy, you can make that happen a lot faster than you think. You just got to get a little bit creative with it. My dad printed out a chord chart and he scotch taped it to the back of his guitar. Now, one thing to note is that the special kind of guitar he got was an Ovation, which if you guys are familiar with guitars, you know what's unique about an Ovation is that it has a rounded back. It's not flat with hard edges. Because it has a rounded back, it creates a different tone for the music. But my dad got it because it's easy to kind of tilt forward a little bit so you can see the back of the guitar while you're still playing. So he was able to just rotate it a little bit and see that cheat sheet of what the chords are to help him remember so that he could keep playing. So he came up with a strategy that allowed him to get to where he wanted to be faster. The third piece you've got to have in place is that strategy for yourself. Is that strategy. And he didn't try to invent the chords himself. He just took what already worked. He found a chord chart online, printed it off, and there you go. So keep that in mind when you're looking for strategies that work. Don't try to invent them all yourself. Don't try to figure out all those pieces, but look for things that work. Model people who are succeeding and go from there. And the fourth piece that you've got to have in place, and this is one that probably everyone listening can identify with. He needed help. He needed support. And I'll be honest, he didn't have a lot of support from the family. We thought he was a little crazy at the time. He proved us all wrong, but we thought he was a little crazy. And when he didn't have support from myself or the other kids or my mom, he found people who he could play the guitar and practice with, and he found that support that he needed. That's another piece that's really important to get in place. And any of these that you feel like you're missing, don't think of it as something that you're missing that you can't get because person XYZ isn't supportive of you, or you don't have that piece currently in place. You've just got to get creative about these and find it where you can. So if you don't have a supportive spouse, a supportive significant other, that's okay. You can find groups online that will support you, that understand what it's like to be an entrepreneur. And there's nothing that gets you support from family faster than when you start to succeed with something and they can see that. The other thing that will help you get that support is when you're excited about it, because they can sense that in you and that helps them to see why it matters. That goes back to piece number 1, which is passion. So let's move on here because I told you there are 5. There's one more non-negotiable that actually might be the most important of all of them. Do you know what I saw when my dad played guitar on the stage that day? Yeah, he had passion, he had tools, he had strategy, he had support. He had those 4 things in place. But I bet if you're still here listening, that means something. If I could see through the computer, I would see the same thing in you that I saw in my dad's eyes that day. My dad's passion to learn to play that guitar was because he had a message that he wanted to share, and he wanted to do it in the voice he chose. It was in his eyes. He was joyful. He was alive. And I bet if I could look through this computer right now, I would see that same thing in your eyes. That you have a passion because you have a message you want to share, and you want to do it your way, in your voice. My dad didn't care how hard it was or how frustrating it had been, because it wasn't easy for him to learn to play the guitar. He had to figure out ways around all the things that would stop most people. Most people wouldn't try to learn to play an instrument if they struggled to hear the tones in music, right? That alone would stop most people. And then most people would say, well, it's going to take me years to figure this out and practice to be good enough to get on stage. Nope, that didn't stop him either. He was determined to figure out shortcuts around it, because he had something he wanted to share, and he wanted to share it in his way, in his own voice. So that's non-negotiable. Piece number 5 is your voice. One of the biggest things that I've seen lead to failure or to struggle or to it taking years to build a business for people is that they can't find their voice, that they're trying to follow somebody else's voice, the way somebody else teaches them to talk or sell. It doesn't work. It doesn't work if you're not speaking in your own voice. Together, these 5 non-negotiables can nearly guarantee your success in creating the business you desire. When you have those things in place, and I want you to think about someone who you consider to be a successful entrepreneur. I did this earlier. I sat down and listed out a few more people who caught my attention this morning. They were live on Instagram or they were live on Facebook, or I got an email from them and I thought, the one thing they all have in common is their voice. They're not afraid to say what they think, and they don't try to fit it into the way that somebody else would tell them to say it. So think about that for a minute. The people that you look up to and admire who are succeeding with their entrepreneurial business, if I ask you right now, I bet you could tell me their story in 2 or 3 lines. Well, yeah, this person, he went from this situation to this is the current situation, and here's how that happened. They've shared their story in their own voice in a way that's memorable, in a way that's unique only to them, and they stand out because of it. So let's talk about this for a minute. If you put these in place, like I said earlier, the only way left to fail really is to quit. Because when you're passionate about it, that's what carries you through the rough spots of building your business. When you have the right tools, the right strategy, and the right support, you can keep going, keep improving every single day, doing a little bit better or a lot better, depending on how fast you want to leap ahead. And when you find your voice and you speak out in that unique voice that's you, that's your story in a way that only you can tell it, you stand out and you get noticed. For most of us, one of the toughest parts, and this has gotten tougher over the years, honestly, since I started my blog, things are harder now in this one way. There's a lot of noise, right? There's people everywhere selling this, promoting that. It's hard to cut through that. And the way to do it is what's unique about you, your voice. So which of these pieces are you missing and why? I want to share a couple quotes with you here real quick. This one is from somebody that I love to follow. If you're not following her, I highly recommend it, Danielle Laporte. And this was in an email that she sent out. All of my failures can be traced to my silence, every single one. And think about that for a minute. Are you using your voice? Are you speaking out with your story and your message, what you know needs to change for your clients, why it matters? Because when we're silent about that, that's when things don't go the way that we know they could go. The rest of this quote says, your voice is a muscle. You need it to rise to the occasion of your life. That's why it's called speaking up. Here's another one. I'm sure you guys are familiar with this one. Martin Luther King Jr. Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about the things that matter. How many times have you been silent about something because you were afraid of how to say it, or that somebody might not understand when you speak to them about something? So why do we have those moments where we're silent about something, that we're passionate, we're excited about it? We know that it can make a difference for people. We know whatever it is we're doing in business, there's a reason for that. We can help people. Whether it's helping people who are in business with a particular service that will get them better results, whether it's helping people get started in a new business, because the more people that we can help start entrepreneurial businesses, the better their lives are, and it's a way to help change this world for the positive. Whatever the product or service is that you offer, I know if we were to sit here and have a conversation about it, you could tell me the reason it matters. You could tell me why it makes such a difference. So why do we sometimes hesitate to talk about it? Do you know deep down in your soul that you could be speaking up louder in your own voice? Say yes in the comments and let me know if this resonates with you, if you understand the feeling of knowing that you want to speak up, that you want to help more people, but you're just not sure what's stopping you, or maybe you know what's stopping you and you're ready to get past that. There's 3 reasons why we shrink away, we whisper quietly, or we stay silent. Number one, and this one I have so been there, we struggle with how to explain and express what we do and why, and the difference that it makes. Have you ever tried to have a conversation with someone who you know is a great fit for your product, your service, your business, but they just had that look in their eyes that they were confused. They didn't get it. They didn't understand why you were trying to sell them on something or share something with you. They didn't get your message. That's a frustrating feeling, isn't it? Because if you could just communicate in a way that they understood it, you know what you would see instead is that little spark in their eye, the little twinkle that says, I get it, you can help me. That's what we need people to see when we express to them what our message is, when we share how it is that we can help them with our business, with our products, with our services, with our blog, with whatever our message is. Number two, we're frustrated. We've been told to write and speak a certain way. Have you ever felt like the way that you naturally speak, the way that you normally communicate isn't good enough? I've been there too, and I'll share more about that one in a minute. And number three, this is another thing that stops a lot of us. If you're on here, if you're following me, I suspect you have been through this one too. It just doesn't feel right to us, to our prospects, and to our clients. One of the things that got me into what I'm going to share with you in a few minutes here, got me started with it, was I had 2 different conversations with 2 different coaches, and I walked away feeling so completely different. One of them, I walked away feeling crushed, like I would never succeed. I felt horrible. And the other one, I walked away feeling like I could do anything. There are certain ways that we're taught to do certain things. We're told to say things in a certain order and use certain words and follow a specific formula and manipulate people a certain way so that we can get a sale. But it doesn't feel right, does it? Because we don't want to be manipulated that way, and we know that others don't either. And you know that your product or service and your message it's valuable. You don't have to trick people into buying it because it's what they need. You just have to show them the value in it so that they want it. They want to hear more from you. They want to learn from you. They want your guidance. So do I have the permission to give you the solution to this? Say yes in the comments and let me know if you're ready to find out how to fix this, how to change all of that so that you don't struggle with any of those 3 things anymore. Do you give yourself permission to use this solution and boldly move ahead in your business? Say yes in the comments and let me know. What is the solution? To free yourself from this box that you're currently trapped in so that you can share your message in your voice. You've got passion. I know that about you, or you wouldn't be here. You need the tools, the strategy, and the support so that you can share your message in your voice with confidence. The cold, hard truth is this: we've been trained to fear our own authentic voices. By teachers who tell us we've got to write a certain way, we've got to use certain words. For me, it was my 8th grade teacher. It was, you've got to have a topic sentence. Then you've got to have 3 supporting sentences, and only 3, not less, not more, and a closing sentence. And that's how you write a paragraph. And then if you're going to write 5 paragraphs, the first one is your topic paragraph. The next 3 each support your idea, and the 5th one is a closing. And you have to write your sentences a certain way. And you have to use certain words. And no, you can't write the way you speak. Has anyone else been frustrated by that you were trained out of sharing in the way that you want to share and communicating in a way that's natural for you? Now you've got to stop and think, did I say that the right way? Did I punctuate it the right way? Did I use the right words? The problem with that is when we're so worried about how we're going to say it, how we're going to write it, we lose the passion because we're going back and questioning ourselves so much. We've also been trained out of it by gurus and experts who tell us, nope, you can't give the honest truth. You got to say it this way to trick people into buying it. You've got to follow this particular formula to sell, and if you don't say exactly these words in this order, nobody's going to buy anything from you. Is anyone else as frustrated by that as I am? That's one of the things I see, honestly, as one of the biggest problems in the online business space, is that we're all being told that you can't sell what you've got based on its value. That we're told you've got to use programming formulas and convince people's brains to make decisions for them. And I don't know about you, but when I'm pushed into a decision like that, I wake up the next day and go, what the heck did I just spend my money on? Where is that $5,000 from my checking account or my credit card? I would like it back, please, because I just came back to my senses. Have you ever had that happen where you felt like you're not sure, but it's possible an alien took over your brain briefly? Now that's what gurus and experts teach us to do, is we can't sell things in our own voice. We can't use our own message. And the cold hard truth is that's actually only part of the problem. You may have heard the poem from Our Deepest Fear. Sometimes we're afraid to speak up and share a message in our voice because we're afraid what happens if it works. And I'll talk more about that in a minute. But what I really want to share with you is there's a simple methodology, strategy, and tools that will help guide you back to using your authentic voice in a truly powerful way. Because that's what we all need. That's what you need. That's what your clients need, is for you to powerfully just be you, to communicate with them in a way that's natural to you, that your passion comes across. Because your powerful voice plus thoughtful communication will change your business. And honestly, it can change the world if we're all a little more thoughtful about the way that we communicate. And that's what I want to share with you next. Say yes in the comments and let me know if you're ready to find out what the 3 E's are and how it can help you to speak in your own voice, but to communicate with people in a way that they understand. If you remember a little bit earlier in this training, I told you about a promise that I made to myself. I made myself a promise, and it was that I would figure things out. One of the things that I figured out that goes along with this quote: people don't remember what you say or do, they only remember how you make them feel. How many times have you walked away from a conversation, from someone you just met, from an event, from any experience, and you don't remember actually what was said or what was done, but what you remember is the feeling that you had, the way you felt at that moment, whether it was positive, whether it was negative. That's the piece you remember, is the feeling. What does that have to do with this? How does this apply to your business? Well, when you're looking at the messaging that you put out there that is in your voice, what matters more than following any formula, than any specific word, is how the words make people feel. How do people feel about what you say? When you speak, do they have that confused look? When they read your messaging, when they read your emails, they read your blog post, your webpage, are they confused? Or do they immediately get it? Do they understand and feel the way that you want them to feel? When you write something, do you stop to think, how is my reader going to feel when they read this? Let's talk about the 3 E's. The first one is excitement. You've got to stop and think, is this going to feel exciting? Is my email, is my blog post, is my social media update, is whatever messaging I'm writing going to feel exciting to my client, my prospect, my reader? Because what you want is for the people who read your messaging to walk away excited. One of the reasons you probably follow the people you do online, think about it for a minute. I want you to get an idea in your head of someone who you enjoy getting their emails. When you see that pop into your inbox, are you excited? Are you excited to open it and see what's inside? The next E is empowerment. I'm willing to bet that when you read messages from that person, you also feel empowered. You feel like you can do it. Like you feel powerful, right? You know, the problem with where I was at, collapsed on the floor, holding my crying, hungry child, was I lost my power. I was completely powerless to fix the problem. You don't ever want your messaging, the words you share, to make someone feel that way, right? I know I don't. That's one reason that you hear me reacting strongly against some of the things that gurus have tried to teach me. I won't sell certain ways. I won't sell in a way that makes someone feel like they're powerless, that makes them feel small. makes them feel pain to an extent that they're not sure they can actually succeed. I want people to feel empowered because I really believe that every single one of us can succeed. The next thing is emotion. So that's the third E. Get excitement, empowerment, and emotion. And emotion can be positive or negative depending on what your messaging is. But you want to think about that. Be conscious. How are these words going to make someone feel emotionally? Will they feel positive? Will they feel excited? Will they feel empowered by it? It's really, really important to stop and think before you publish that next blog post, before you send out that email. How's this subject line going to make someone feel? Because again, that's what people remember. That's what they walk away with. That's their impression of you, is do you make them feel excited and empowered? And do they have an emotional response? You want to stand out online and get noticed. You want people to be eager to see what you're up to and follow you. This is what you've got to keep in mind, these 3 E's. So the real question then becomes, how do you know? How do you measure this? If you're like me, that was one of the things that I wondered. I told you earlier about those 2 conversations I had with coaches. I remember how different they made me feel, but I had no idea how to measure that or how to compare it in any way other than, well, I feel this way here and I feel this way here. So how can you figure out how your audience will feel? Because a lot of times we have certain associations with words that not everybody has, right? And it's hard when you're having a one-on-one conversation. You can watch someone's expressions. You can see how they react to something. You can read that and it helps. I know a lot of people who in person, you can express your message. You can express why it matters. But when you go to write, it can be really tough because you don't have that feedback from somebody sitting there reacting. You're not sure how somebody will perceive what it is you're writing. I know a lot of people, and if this is you, you are so not alone, who you're great in person. But when it comes to trying to share your message online, it's tougher. People don't seem to get it. They don't seem to understand. And it's because you don't have that feedback that you can watch them and adjust the conversation, right? So how can you do that when you're writing? I want to share with you this tool, and I'm going to switch from my slides here. 1 second. Let's see. There we go. And I'm going to put in a secret password. If you are in the traffic adventure, you may have already seen a version of this. Oops. Let's try that again. I must have made a typo. There we go. Important to get the right letters and the password right. All right, so I'm going to zoom in so you can see this. And this is called the Hookline Dynamic. It's in beta release right now. You guys can see it at hooklinedynamic.com. This gives you a way to measure the 5 E's. And this is based on research. Let me show you here. I'll show you a picture of the database. Let's see. This is based on research and surveys of literally thousands of people to find out how they reacted to different words. Was the word exciting? Was it emotional, negative or positive? Was it empowering? So there's tens of thousands of words in this database and thousands of people. Oh, let's see here. There we go. Go back here. Responded to how different words make them feel. So this gives you a way to get that feedback as you write. So I'm going to use an example here, and I'm going to type in the headline that's on the page. One simple line really change your fortune on the interwebs. Enter to scan it, and you can see by the little gears there, it's doing some calculations. What this really does is it gives you a way to see how do words make people feel, so that as you're writing your headline for your next blog post, that subject line for your email, you can adjust it. You can figure out, okay, I want this to make people feel empowered. So you can see here, you can go in and choose meanings and swap out words. You can see which words make people feel more positive. So for the word change, for example, the meaning I want is difference. and I can choose a different word here. Let's see. You can see them all over here. You can compare them to see how they rank. This is the word score overall, and one thing that I really like about this is it makes it easier to figure out what's a better or not better choice for all of these different things. So you can go through and see here. If I wanted to swap out the word fortune, I could go here. And here's some words. Destiny actually has a higher score than fortune in certain. It's got a positive meaning here. See, as you scroll over them, you can see if they've got a little down arrow, they're less overall. But this is just a way that you can see how does a word make other people feel. So not just your own impression of it, but actually how do most people feel about this word. Now, here's something that's really cool I thought about this particular headline. You guys know that my audience, I tend to sell to a more feminine, more feminine audience. So I can click this little rank by and I can see not just how do people feel about this headline, it has a 6.8, but how do people feel masculine versus feminine, older versus younger, higher education versus lower education. The reason for this is if you know who your target audience is, you can really dial in how you speak specifically to that audience. See, if you watch this, when I put in masculine, now the original headline for this page was very different. It had numbers in it, and it was, you can boost your results by X%. And as I worked with a copywriter on this and said, okay, but my audience, I don't know that they'll respond to that. And we put different things into the tool, tried different things here. You can see men, this is a very low score. They don't find this very exciting, very positive emotionally. But when we switch to women, okay, so it was a 5.5. When we switch to feminine here, and it's recalculating the score based on how exciting, how emotional, how empowering these words are. And you'll see the score change in just a minute. That just went from a 5.5 to a 7.2, which is showing you that a feminine audience, so that doesn't necessarily mean men versus women. I'm sure you get the concept here. A feminine audience finds this far more positive emotionally and far more empowering and exciting than a male audience does, or a masculine audience. And the interesting thing about this is you can go through here and sometimes the results that come back are surprising. Like I went in and I put in, okay, how do higher educated people feel about this? I thought maybe this would come back lower, that maybe this appealed more to lower income people because it's about changing your fortune. It's about, making a change in your life based on this. It's got a 6.6 for people who have a higher education. And if I go in here to a lower educational level, it's recalculating. Let's say I always hear Jeopardy music in my head when I'm waiting like this. It only has a 6.0. So this headline actually appeals more to a higher educated feminine audience, which actually is my target market. That's who I tend to work with more. You can also go in and change it to older versus younger. And, sometimes it's surprising. I was doing some research the other day for a blog post about using emojis in subject lines. I'll publish that one later today probably. And I thought, okay, maybe the younger crowd really likes those. Turns out that the crowd like over 40 actually reacts more positively. They open and click more on emails with emoji in the subject line. Now, I would have thought maybe they weren't as familiar with them and that it would be the younger crowd that really liked those because they like my kids, they text completely in emojis. I can't figure out their code. But it's something that you can measure that with this, and you can see for different audiences what the reaction really is. You're not just depending on what you think they might think or how you feel about words. And the power in this really is that it gives you a way to make sure that when you communicate, you say things your way in your voice, that it has the effect you intended. That if you want them to feel excited and empowered and positive emotionally or negative emotionally, that you can see that's exactly how those words are making them feel. So think about that for a minute. I'm going to And again, you guys can get access to the beta version of this at hooklinedynamic.com. I'll tell you how to get access to the premium version in a minute. There's also a ideas generator in here for your hook lines. You can use these for email subject lines, for blog post headlines, for all sorts of things. Sales page headlines is a great place to use it. Anywhere that you're writing messaging that you want to make sure you know how it's going to make someone feel, I encourage you to use this tool. All right, so I want to jump back into my slides for a minute. Let's go back to full screen mode. Let's see. Regina, I love your comment. Emojis are fun and playful and newer to us older gals. Yeah, I like emoji. I don't have the same skill with telling entire stories in them, but they're a great way to express a little bit of fun and emotion in things. All right, let's see here. Okay, so here's the other thing that I want to show you, and this is not actually live yet, but I had to share it because this is really, I've been working on this for quite a while, and I'll tell more of the story about how it came about, how it came into being, and I actually went and got venture capital to be able to develop this, and I'll share more about that later. But this doesn't just scan hook lines or headlines. What I'm working with the programmers to finish up now is a scanner that you can put copy into, so you can put your own messaging in there. You can put your story in there, you can put your blog post in there, you can put an email in here, and you'll be able to see, you can see here how it's scanning the words. It's giving you options for switching out your synonyms. It's giving you the scores of the individual words. But over here on the left, what you can do is put your copy in and see who you write like, or see specifically how you compare to certain people. The reason this is valuable is if you know that a certain person has the audience that you also help, that you also serve, and you know they have figured out how to effectively speak to that audience, they figured out how to communicate the right feelings to that audience, you can compare your copy, your written words, your messaging to theirs and see where you can tweak it. So you can see, are you as exciting, too exciting? Do you just in the right zone? What's your emotion like? Is it too high? Do you need to dial it back a little bit? Do you need to add a little more emotion? And how's your empowerment? So you can compare this, because the thing is, certain markets, and it's been fascinating to go through this data again. I'll share about that later. But it's been fascinating to see certain markets actually respond better to less exciting copy, less exciting messaging, or to negative emotionally charged messaging. Some respond better to positive and exciting. As I went through and put in really famous, well-known entrepreneurs, business people, copywriters, regular authors, and I watched the results as compared to who it is that their audience is, who is it that loves them, that responds, that buys their products, that really resonates with them. I saw patterns in certain markets, and that was so interesting to me, because I realized if I take my messaging and my voice and I watch what's working, I can still speak like me. I can still share things the way that I want to share them, but just dial in and adjust these things a little bit to make sure that I'm communicating in a way that my written messaging has the same effect as when I speak to someone, that I can see in their eyes, they get it. They understand me. They see the value in it. This also scans more than just the 3 E's I talked about. It scans for reading level. Really important to know what reading level your ideal audience responds to. A lot of people write at a very high reading level when a lower reading level would work much better for their audience. Or they write at a low reading level because that's what we've all been told, right? Write at a 6th grade level. You might be surprised the level that some of the people that you'll put in here write at. Because the 6th grade level doesn't actually work for everything. There's no rules that work all the way across the board, right? When it comes to some of these little nuances. The other thing is it measures the expressiveness of the punctuation, which is another really fascinating thing. And then it gives you some suggestions. You can see here, use high excitement words, use less high emotion words. Are you expressive enough with your punctuation? Is the reading level set correctly? So this really allows you to put your own voice in here and just figure out what little tweaks to make. I don't know about you, but that's exciting to me, that I can still be me, express things the way I want to express them, but find a way to do it that connects with my audience. So imagine how this changes things. Thoughtful, careful communication. And here's where I offer you something, because I would be doing you a huge disservice if I didn't. Now, this has been, we've been going about an hour now. And what I wanted to really focus on was just the training part of it. What are those 5 pieces you need in place in your business, and the 3 E's, so that you can start running things through that filter in your head. But anytime you do a presentation, you have a conversation with someone, you should always give them a chance to take the next step with you. So just super quick, this isn't for everyone, might not be for you, at least not right now. Again, hooklinedynamic.com. The beta version of this tool is totally free to use. I encourage you to go bookmark it and use it on everything that you're writing to send out. Subject lines, blog post headlines, your tweets, your Facebook status updates. And you'll start to see the patterns and how certain words make people feel. Now, if you're looking to get access to the copy scanner I showed you, to the filter by demographic, masculine, feminine, higher education, lower education, all of that is going to be available in a tool suite for Lingo Dynamics. It's not available yet. We'll be rolling it out shortly here. The only way to get early access to that as a beta tester is through VoiceQuake, Get Seen, Get Heard, Get Business. I'm not going to go into the details here because, like I said, today this is just about training, about understanding those foundational pieces and the 3 E's, so that you can use those, that you can start really thinking about how your words are causing your reader to feel. How does your messaging come across? If you want details about it, though, you can go to extremetrafficadventure.com/VoiceQuake. That's where you can find more details about it. I think I've got a link on the page right below the video. So that's all I've got for you today. I just wanted to share, again, those 5 things. If you don't have those in place, if as I was going through those, you thought, I really could use more support, or, there is an area I'm weak in, I need to find a tool that will help me compensate for that, or I don't have my voice dialed in. I got to figure out how to be more me, how to express my message in my voice. I encourage you to take some time this weekend and just look for creative ways. Don't ask, can I get this piece in place? Can I get support? Ask, how can I get? Ask yourself, what needs to change? What can I do? Because we can't control other people's reactions. We can't control what happens around us, but we can always control ourselves and our choices. So just find a way to get those 5 things in place for yourself and in your business. That's my challenge to you. And make sure every time you write something down, whether it's an email, whether it's a Facebook message, whatever it is, think, is this empowering? Is this exciting? And what emotion will my recipient, my reader, my audience feel? Start to really think about that, and you'll be amazed at how it changes the way that you share and the way that people respond to what it is you share with them. Again, thanks so much for joining the presentation today. I hope this has been helpful for you. I would love your feedback. You can post it in chat or send me a message. Let me know if this has been helpful. I want to wish you a wonderful rest of your Saturday, rest of your weekend. And if you're in the Extreme Traffic Adventure, I will see you in the Facebook group there. If not, join us. And we're having a lot of fun learning how to get more traffic, get in front of more people, influence more people, and make a positive change. So I wish you a wonderful weekend, and I'll catch you next time. I'm doing another live training next week, Thursday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. I will also do it at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern time. So either of those times, Thursday next week, you can join me. And I look forward to seeing you there. Have a great day.